For most of American history, dynasties were something we studied in history books, not financial planning tools. But over the last 4 decades, a quiet legal revolution has transformed how the ultra-wealthy preserve power. At the heart of this shift, the rise of dynasty trusts. These aren't your typical estate planning vehicles. Dynasty trusts are built to last forever. Thanks to the repeal of the Rule Against Perpetuities in states like South Dakota, Nevada, and Florida, families can now establish trusts that endure for centuries, or even indefinitely, shielding wealth from estate taxes, creditors, and political winds. The result? A new era of perpetual financial empires. While most Americans plan for the next generation, some families are planning for the next 100. In this video, we'll explore how dynasty trusts became the preferred tool of billionaires, how they've reshaped estate planning, and what it means for wealth, power, and democracy in the 21st century. To understand how dynasty trusts rose to dominance, we have to start with what fell: the Rule Against Perpetuities. This Old English common law rule, clunky but well-intentioned, basically said, you can't tie up wealth in a trust forever. At some point, your money has to become someone's for real. The idea was to prevent permanent aristocracies, besides the established aristocracy sanctioned by the Crown, and encourage asset circulation. But beginning in 1983 with South Dakota, states started quietly repealing this rule. Why? Competition. Legislatures realized that by eliminating the perpetuity limit, they could attract trust business, along with the advisors, banks, and custodians that come with it. Nevada, Alaska, Delaware, and others soon followed. The 1986 introduction of the generation skipping transfer tax ironically fueled the fire. Wealthy families saw an opportunity. If they used their GST exemption to fund a trust that never had to end, they could avoid estate tax, not once or twice, but forever. It was, in effect, a legal end run around America's generational tax system, and it worked. The Rule Against Perpetuities wasn't just weakened, it was gutted, and in its place rose a new architecture of dynastic control. As states repealed the Rule Against Perpetuities, a new map of wealth preservation emerged. These aren't just favorable jurisdictions, they're active participants in the rise of dynastic wealth. South Dakota remains the undisputed champion. It offers no state income or capital gains tax on trust assets, perpetual trust duration, meaning the trust can live forever, robust privacy and asset protection laws that shield beneficiaries and grantors from scrutiny. Nevada is a close rival, boasting 365-year trust durations, strong creditor protections, and zero state income tax, especially appealing to Californians looking to escape high-tax environments. Delaware, with its corporate legal pedigree, became a go-to for families who needed professional trustee services, complex entity integration, and favorable tax treatment for non-resident beneficiaries. And Alaska took things further, pioneering self-settled spendthrift trusts, where even the person funding the trust can remain a discretionary beneficiary while still getting asset protection. These, and many more, are selling long-term governance, and families are buying in, setting up trusts designed to quietly compound and control assets for centuries. Today's dynasty trusts are no longer just the passive vaults for wealth they were 40 years ago. They have evolved into sophisticated, adaptive ecosystems built with flexibility, secrecy, and long-term strategy in mind. Let's break down the most powerful tools that make these structures so enduring. 1. Directed trusts. These divide responsibilities across multiple roles: investment advisors, distribution committees, administrative trustees. This not only brings in professional expertise, but also allows families to maintain control while outsourcing liability and operational complexity. 2. Silent trusts. Many trusts now delay disclosure to beneficiaries for decades. Why? To protect younger generations from entitlement, predators, or even kidnappers. You don't need to worry about a teenager blowing a trust fund if they don't even know it exists. 3. Trust decanting. Think of this as a legal do-over. Trustees can move assets into a new trust with better terms updated for tax law, new family needs, or changing goals. It's a quiet way to evolve without involving courts or disrupting the beneficiary structure. 4. Perpetual duration. With no forced distribution date, these trusts don't ever end. That means assets can grow and be managed forever, shielded from estate tax, creditors, or future divorces. Taken together, these tools allow ultra-wealthy families to design trusts that are as dynamic as they are durable. They don't just preserve money, they encode values, control access, and adapt to change across generations. Let's ground this in reality. These aren't abstract structures. They're already shaping the future of America's wealth. The Walton family, founders of Walmart, worth over $200 billion. Sam Walton began moving shares into trusts for his children back in the 1950s, well before Walmart's IPO. They've since used charitable lead trusts and dynasty structures to avoid estate tax and maintain control over the company without directly owning a majority stake. Result: the Waltons quietly steward one of the world's largest fortunes with minimal public exposure and maximum control. The Pritzker family, famed for owning the Hyatt hotel chain and other ventures. They built a network of over 2,500 trusts, including offshore, designed for tax efficiency and confidentiality. When A.N. Pritzker died, his personal estate was worth just $25,000. But the empire he controlled, billions. The flip side, their opaque structure led to a $900 million lawsuit between siblings. Dynasty trusts are powerful, but risky if governance breaks down. Other quiet giants families, like the Mars Candy Empire, Coke Energy, and Cargill Macmillan, agribusiness, have embedded their business holdings in perpetual trusts. These aren't just estate planning tactics, they're business continuity strategies. The trust owns the enterprise, the family governs the trust. It's control without title and influence without public ownership. These families aren't avoiding taxes by accident. They're playing the long game, using dynasty trusts to lock in control, minimize transfer taxes, and insulate wealth from risk. Dynasty trusts aren't just legal tools, they're tax-optimized machines. But the same features that make them efficient also raise tough public policy questions. GST exemption. In 2025, individuals can allocate nearly $14 million to a dynasty trust, $28 million for couples. Once that exemption is applied, all future appreciation in the trust avoids gift, estate, and generation-skipping transfer taxes forever. Because trust assets never enter a beneficiary's estate, they bypass the 40% estate tax at every generation. Over time, this allows families to accumulate far more than traditional inheritance would allow. Is this the new feudalism? Legal scholars and tax policy experts are sounding alarms. Wealth lock-in. These trusts can hold appreciating assets like private businesses or real estate forever, never taxed, never sold, never distributed. Democratic disconnect. Massive economic power is being concentrated in vehicles with no expiration date, no public reporting, and minimal tax liability. Race to the bottom. States compete for this wealth by making trust laws more favorable. Longer durations, less oversight, lower taxes. It's legal arbitrage, fueled by legislative incentives. Federal perpetuity limits. Others advocate for a nationwide rule, reinstating some version of the Rule Against Perpetuities. The bottom line? Dynasty trusts offer elite families a way to opt out of generational taxation. Whether that's a smart use of the tax code or a democratic loophole is at the heart of today's policy debates. Dynasty trusts have quietly redrawn the boundaries of wealth, power, and permanence in America. Families like the Waltons, Pritzkers, and Gettys have built financial fortresses that can last forever, shielded from taxation, creditors, and in many cases, even internal dissent. But with this permanence comes a deeper tension. These aren't just estate planning tools. They're vehicles of multi-generational influence, capable of shaping economies, philanthropy, and even public discourse from behind closed doors. And unlike typical inheritance, this power is designed to compound unchallenged across centuries. For families who can afford the right advice, the message is clear. If you want to build an empire that outlives you, the Dynasty Trust is the modern blueprint. And for everyone else, it's worth understanding the tools being used to shape the future from the shadows.